Are we back? We working? Is it broken yet? Not yet. We're back. I gotta wait for Discord to update so I can send a notification to the Discord. I should have it automatically set up, but I got rid of the bot for whatever reason. I haven't bothered to
SWB audio
reinstitute
captured,
it.
not registered.
Why does Discord not want to open now? Come on. Can we not be broken? I have to use my phone? Would that make it easier? Okay. It doesn't want to update, I guess. There we go. Send it out, everyone. Oh, God. Fucking wonderful, right? Just fantastic. God. Oh, now you're going to open Discord. Asshole. Fucking computers, man. We should have stayed in caves and done wall art. Go away. I need to fix this again now. But, welcome back, everyone. Find your way back in. Hopefully it doesn't break again. God. Makes me upset for no reason. Because it has no reason to be broken. But then again, it is. I don't know what the issue is. It is like a 5-year-old Mac, maybe. I need to think about swapping it out. But, recap. Warhammer 40k TTRPG. Everything we just talked about. Attributes, actions, stuff like that. This specific thing is referencing the mechanic for named characters.
Not registered.
As I said at the beginning of this, there is kind of a joke in the Warhammer 40k community that if you're a character who has a name, you're infinitely more important. It's just basically just describing what plot armor is, but this is a plot armor mechanic in the actual RPG. So you can play as a hero, which is basically makes you a named character. You get some bonuses like bonus unit levels, bonus attribute points, and a higher health pool of 9 rather than 6 true health. But once your character dies, that's it. They're done. No more. Whereas if you play as a regular soldier, you are the faceless grunt in the crowd, but if your character dies, it's not as big of a risk because you have a pool of respawns that you come back with. So if your character dies, even if they have kind of, stronger equipment or something like that, you're just replaced with another faceless grunt who gains the same equipment. The downside, obviously, hey Spyro, is that regular run-of-the-mill grunt soldiers only have the 6 health, and they are not as strong. Not as strong outright. They can become as strong, but they won't start there. Versus heroes, kind of get a bonus right out the gate. War merits. This is kind of going into the background of your character. So on the left, you have the legacy of your hero, and these are different backgrounds for named hero characters. Basically, what makes your hero a hero, and you get a different bonus depending on which one you go with there. On the right, you have the duty of your company. Basically, out of your entire company of whatever soldier you pick, when they're being replenished, this is what your company is known for, what they do and how they act, and how they carry themselves in the field. Why is that? Okay. I don't know how that was double playing. And then you get different bonuses based on that as well. Pretty simple, not super advanced stuff or anything like that. We go over, this is unit levels themselves. This is it laid out. At the bottom, this sort of just, what do you call it? Summarizes what I was talking about earlier, where your unit level subdivided into the unit level of an enemy determines how strong they are to you and or how strong you may be to them. So you have it going all the way from mortal, superhumans, demigods, Olympians, paragons, warmongers, and eternal. 20 plus in this scale is the God Emperor and the Chaos Gods. You cannot get to 20 or higher than 20. None of the enemies are at 20 or higher than 20, because if you were fighting something with a unit level of 20, you are not winning no matter how hard you try or how well you roll. There is no winning against something. Go away, we're doing a software update. There is no winning against something that is unit level 20 plus. I don't have anything instituted for that. I just have it included for the sake of the universe. If you're running this game yourself as a game master, there is nothing stopping you from being like, hey, Korn is here. If your characters are in the warp or something like that, and then they just have to deal with it. But that's not something I have any specific stat blocks for. It is just describing those entities of a higher being, like the God Emperor and the Chaos Gods. Obviously, you have stuff like Warmonger is more for like the big Imperator Titans and what do you call it? Demon Princes, Primarchs, stuff like that. Paragon is more your Malam Kaidos, some of the other Primarchs, characters that are really, really, really strong, but they're not like absolutely beating everything they fight against. Olympian, this is your better infantry, more vehicles, light vehicles, so you have like dreadnoughts, tanks are kind of in this class, as well as like a lot of Terminators, bigger Psychers, Grey Knights, stuff like that. Your demigod are the strongest of like the Astartes and everyone around that level. This is also kind of where like Terminator Space Marines sit. This is like where someone like Captain Titus would be. Superhuman is kind of your just above average. Your Sisters of Battle, your Phobos Space Marines, things like that. And then mortals are just the most numerous kind of person you find in the galaxy. Your guardsmen, your farmers, your corpse starch fits right in that category. These unit levels are important because as your character increases in unit level, the longer they're alive and the more accolades they achieve, you get these things called war heroics. These are not afforded to characters that are unit level 1 through 3 because they're just mortals. They're not that special. Once you start gaining up through the tiers, normally the way I run it, this is again a game master dependent thing, the way I run it is that every time a party of characters completes a deployment, which is basically a set of quests that they will get leaving the home base, go out and do the quests, and by the time they get back to the home base, that's the end of one deployment, and they gain a unit level, an attribute point, stuff like that. So as they go up, there's this list of different abilities, and basically as you achieve each, the next set, based on your unit level, you get one ability out of the two. So each has two, and they get increasingly more powerful to the point by the time you're at the state of Warmonger, at the very top, you are being personally protected by the God Emperor himself. And there's just, all the fun stuff going on there. And then obviously this says, again, Eternals, who are 20 plus on the unit level scale, you cannot even get to that level. It tops out at 19. 20 is the Emperor and the Chaos Gods, bar none. Now, this is a list of things for chaos corruption. So, this also is a very game master dependent thing. The most common one you will see is shit. There we go. Fixed. I hit my microphone cord. I'm sorry. It's fucking still broke. And I cheaped out and I got a cheap cord to replace it, and the cheap cord doesn't even recognize the microphone as a microphone. So that's awesome. This is a list of different things you can get if you are being favored by one of, if not multiple, of the Chaos Gods. So you have the King of Slaughter, Khorne. The more bloodthirsty you are, the more furious you are, things like that. You may gain Khorne's favor, which is mostly a thing that gives you more damage and more the ability to basically do more in melee, get up close and fuck people up. I've had 2 different player characters running this campaign that have fallen to Khorne because they are so very specifically Blood Angels, because there was a mechanic for Blood Angels I very explicitly had that just so happened to put them down the Khorne pipeline. That has been nerfed a little bit, so it's not as common. But this is more up to the discretion of the game master, depending on what you think would apply to the different Chaos Gods. Obviously, you have Khorne, King of Slaughter, Combat, Violence, Blood, Tzeentch, the Lord of Change, Strategy, and Intelligence is a great way to get his attention. If your characters are doing really like roundabout strategy, stabbing people in the back, coming up with really intricate plans, that's a good way to get noticed by Tzeentch. Nurgle, the Plague God, Cycles of Life and Death and Decay. Basically, if you're using toxins and bioweapons, Plague Demons having a cancer gun made in their own hand. I mean, yeah, that's basically what they are. They are just a walking pile of cancer. And then obviously Slaanesh, Prince of Pleasure. Anything where you are going to the heights of perfection and excess. So being really, really prideful, gluttonous, that's where you're going to fall into Slaanesh. And these are set up so they get stronger the more and more you fall into the favor of any one Chaos God. And if it gets bad enough and you are not treated by a... I'm going to forget the name right now. I literally just built one too. Shit, what's Leandros' name? Hold on. That's not it. Well, I'm gonna forget. The Space Marine pastors. What the fuck is it called? I'm forgetting so hard right now. But basically, if you're not cleansed of your chaotic corruption by a... God damn it, it's basically a paladin. I forget what the actual name for them is. But if you're not cleansed by something like that, or one of the Sisters of Battle, or someone in the Ecclesiarchy, or even the Inquisition, you'll fall further and further into chaos until you are fully corrupted, and then you basically become a bad guy. Not Grey Knights, the thing that Leandros is in Space Marine 2, with the skull mask. I wanted to say Apothecary, but that's not it. That's the healers. The medical dudes. But I'm forgetting, it's like a really specific name. Justiciar is one of the units that is chaplain. There you go. I wanted to say Justiciar, but that's like that's like an executioner for Space Marines. Yeah, chaplain. The Space Marine chaplain who will help you root out your chaotic corruption and become pure once more, as long as it hasn't gotten too bad. Otherwise, you'll get corrupted. Like in a game I was running for friends of mine, one of them fell to Khorne. He didn't really make any efforts to stop it, and he kind of just went on until his character devolved into becoming a full-on demon prince. And it's a fun character moment to have with your players if you are running this if you are a game master running this specific campaign. Now, here comes the fun bit. Chaplain for their priests. Yeah. These are the multiple different classes you can choose from to be as a player. As of right now in the guide, the bottom two... I don't know where the fuck that is getting sound from. Okay. Sorry, something on my OBS is freaking out again. I'll make sure it's not breaking. The bottom two, as of right now, are not fully complete with stats and classes and stuff like that. The Mechanicus and the Heroes of the Imperium. But these top three are Agents, the Astartes, and Sororitas. The Battle Sisters, all female, power armor. They're more holy, they're more anti-chaos, they're more of like a flavorful guardsman type thing. Space Marines, obviously Angels of Death, big power armor dudes on the cover. This is, out of all the campaigns I've run, 90% of all of my players have picked Space Marines. Obviously, I haven't even gotten to playtest any of like the Agents of the Imperium or most of the Sisters of Battle because just nobody picks them. But I do have them statted out and everything in this guide. So we go through when you're picking your character. This is a rough guide. This is kind of out of date. I'm going to skip that for now. This is Space Marines. Now, these are all descriptions that I just copy and pasted from the Warhammer Lexicanum to basically give you a little bit of flavor text about what the Space Marines are. If you're unfamiliar with 40k, Space Marines are the Angels of Death for the Emperor of Mankind. They are trans-modified, mutated humans that are buffed up with all sorts of drugs, surgeries, things like that to make them into the perfect, perfect killing machines. They are fast, they are lethal, they are experts in a lot of the things they do, and they're basically big giant sci-fi crusaders. You'll see this number 10 here. This is the average unit level of Space Marines. So some Space Marines are above this and below this, but this is like the average you're going to get to. I think that might be out of date though. I believe it's lower. One too many things they can do when it comes to their genes. There's a lot. So the way that these classes will work is you have your archetype is your class. So say like a Space Marine Terminator or a Space Marine, the Phobos Infiltrators, the Snipers, or an Apothecary, the Medic, things like that. That's your archetype. Your subclass is your chapter. For Space Marines, obviously they have a fuckload of chapters. Most of them, at least like the first founding ones, are in here, including some of the traitor ones. For Sisters of Battle, they have their orders, which are basically kind of the same thing as chapters, but just for Sisters of Battle and how they do things. And then for Agents of the Imperium, you have battle doctrines, which is how they fight. If they choose like the want to fight, there's no custodies in here. There are custodies. They're wrapped up in the Heroes of the Imperium thing. We'll get to that later. And then the Agents of Imperium have their how they fight. If they just come down with the hammer, or if they want to be more surgical, or if they want to be all information based, that's all there. We'll get into it when we get there. Space Marines, this is all stat stuff, what they begin with, and little bits of extra flavor text and things like that. So you see, like, Space Marines are immune to being bled out. Their blood is too strong, it will just clot up and they won't die from it, unless they're literally missing limbs or like half their body. They start out with 30 speed, meaning within a single action they can move 6 inches on the board, which I think is low for regular Space Marines in 40k, but it's a little bit shrunk down. Starting with 2 actions, obviously impacted by Fury. They have a base resistance +2, and they gain 1 attribute point every time they level up. And they also begin with Honor and Faith, the 2 attributes, at 10. So without even having to spend any of their points on them, they begin with a high Honor and high Faith right out the gate. Obviously for their Battle Brothers. So now we will go into classes. This is what each class archetype is going to look like. So this is the most basic one. This is your Space Marine Captain. You see in the top left, that's your unit level. This Space Marine Captain is unit level 5. Again, on the right side, you have some flavor text from the wiki and stuff like that about what the specific archetypes are and how they act. Here in the middle is all of your equipment. So you have the top one is normally going to be a ranged weapon. Here, The Space Marine Captain actually has 2, so he can choose between taking a standard bolter pistol or taking a plasma pistol. Then he also has a chainsword for his melee there on the second rung, and on the third one is his armor. He just has kind of generic power armor, and then the armor class and any extra descriptors are there. And then each class archetype gets these 2 abilities. For the Space Marine Captain, obviously his main ability is the fact that he is a captain, so he can order people around and tell them what to do. And then some other stuff, like when they die, he gets some extra things that are going on with that. The next Space Marine archetype we have is Terminators. Veterans in really, really heavy armor. Again, he's got 2 different options for his ranged weapon between the assault cannon, which is like a minigun, and a heavy flamer. And then he's got the big power fist. It's, big fist, hits hard. The armor and abilities. We have Infiltrators. You can see here 2 weapons again. Big bolter. Or a sniper bolter rifle, and the Devastator, which if you don't know, is like a rocket launcher rifle in Warhammer. It's very Space Marine-y. And then you can see for his melee, instead of having a melee option, he actually has the option between taking a melee in the form of the power knife, or taking a pistol to go alongside his choice of sniper. Stardies have bigger balls than standard Space Marine? Kind of, yeah. And then Phobos armor has extra speed. Abilities are very, very sniper stealth based. Moving on from that, we have the Aggressor flight suits. These are the big Space Marine kind of like tanky suits that have jetpacks built into them, so they can fly around with them, land and do some extra stuff. This one only has 2 weapon options because their weapons are built into the suit that they're in. And then they get extra abilities and stuff for stuff that's attached to the suit. This one's a lot less modular than something like the traditional Space Marine armor, but it gives you a lot of bonuses right at the gate. And you can see unit level 6. This is the 2nd strongest, I think? 3rd strongest, because we have Space Marine Librarian, who will get their mobility. Yeah. This is your Space Marine Wizard. Effectively, these are the ones that are most open to being corrupted, so if you're a game master, make sure you use this one for its maximum narrative potential on the board. They're kind of just going to rush in with weapons, and they have access to a thing called the Psyker Table. Basically, anytime you want to use Psyker magic, you just roll. If you roll too low, you will hurt yourself because you're basically calling on hell to do stuff. Being a Jedi equivalent, kind of. They are very dangerous to themselves and their allies if they're doing stuff incorrectly. If they roll too low, they will fuck people up. They have this thing called the Psyker Table, which is basically a gambling system to see how strong your spell is. So whenever you roll and you hit with a Psyker spell, you roll, say, it begins at a d20 and it builds, or it goes down the rung of dice. So if you roll on a d20, between 1 and 17 will just cast different spells, and it'll tell you what kind of spell you are casting, whether you are giving extra shield to your allies, or you're turning your enemies on themselves, or you're just hitting them with a bolt of lightning. Or if you roll a 19 into a 20 or an 18, you move on to the next dice. So from a d20, you move on to the d12, which has its own rung of more powerful spells. If you roll an 11 or a 12, you move on to the d10, and then on to the d8, and then on to the d6, and then finally ending on the d4, which has a list of abilities that can range from opening a giant rift to the warp that kind of sucks everyone in and is going to fuck you over, or will just like delete 5 people off the board at random, which I think is stolen directly from the original Deathwatch TTRPG. But yeah, it's a full thing that you basically are, I mean, literally you're rolling dice, but you're making a big roll of the dice anytime you want to do something with the Psyker, and you're not prepared for it. Then you obviously have Space Marine Apothecaries, kind of the same as the others. They have extra abilities, stuff for healing allies, so you can kind of, in the same way that you're not tracking ammo and how many magazines you have, the Apothecary doesn't track how many stims they have. They can kind of just heal infinitely as long as they're rolling well enough, versus if you don't have an Apothecary, you kind of have to just find medical supplies as you go. This is a big wall of text basically telling you what Deathwatch is. If you're playing as a Space Marine in this system, you are playing as a Space Marine member of Deathwatch, which are veteran Special Operations Space Marines from all of the different chapters, all of the different flavors that come together to work on very specific missions, mainly against aliens, Xenos, and things like that. And this basically just tells you what the Deathwatch are and how they operate. And then we have the many, many chapters of Space Marines, at least the Loyalists. These are all 9 Loyalists, the first founding chapters, including the Black Templars. I included them specifically as a successor chapters because the Templars do have their own army in 40k, the tabletop, so I thought it was fitting to include that successor, even though there aren't any other successors added here, stat-wise. Not saying that you couldn't, as the Game Master, implement successor chapters, or even just have a player character elect to play as a successor, but just kind of taking the stats and abilities of their main chapter. So you go through, you pick your Space Marine archetype, whether it's a Terminator, Captain, the flight suits, Infiltrator, Apothecary, etc., and then you come through and you pick your chapter. Each of these slides will look like this. You have at the top is War Gear. You get both of those. So each class comes with 2 extra pieces of equipment. Say for Ultramarines, here at the beginning, you get a copy of the Codex Astartes, which basically gives you a big boost of order, and then also a power sword. Some of the classes also begin with a power sword, but you basically just get an extra power sword to go along with it, or if you had a different melee weapon, or even if you had no melee weapon, you would take the power sword as well. And then obviously you have abilities on each of these. The top one isn't really an ability, it's more so of the Oath of the chapter. So say this is Ultramarines, they have the Oath of Ultramar. The Sons of Macragge, Ultramarines, and kind of going through the doctrine of the chapter itself. And then the other 2 abilities are specific to Ultramarines, giving them a specific blessing of a attribute or a core gameplay statistic. And then their secondary ability is kind of also tying into that same attribute. 80% more brothers than other chapters. Yeah, Ultramarines are like most Space Marines in the galaxy of 40k are Ultramarines. Statistically, most members of Deathwatch should just be Ultramarines, but that would make too much sense math-wise. So yeah, each chapter, as well as having its main identity of, what the chapter is in Warhammer 40k as a thing, also has an identity of how it plays on the board. So Ultramarines, Order, they're the guys that are good at spreadsheets and math. They're good with order, more collected like that. Next, we have Salamanders, obviously. Big Hammer, the Drake Mail, basically dragon skin, you get added to it. Oath of Nocturne, the, humanity is great, the greatest thing to protect in the Imperium, as the Salamanders believe. And they get a special ability for being larger, because salamanders are just the biggest space marines. So they get a boost to labor, and obviously they get their blessing of diligence to make sure they have their eyes on all the innocent people being trampled over in the war zone. We have space wolves who have their whole lycanthropy thing built in here, which is basically where the space wolf will get stronger and stronger and stronger, but kind of turn into a werewolf as they go. And that's the way I have this sped up. So they're kind of like a more berserker type class. Imperial Fists stand strong. They start with the shield. They have specific oaths and abilities of labor, and they are immune to stagger, which can be powerful if you have it set up specifically in a way. And they also drink mercury without dying. That too. For Imperial Fists, because they are a fleet-based chapter, they don't have a homeworld necessarily. They have like a fleet that goes by. You have a specific ship in orbit, at least for this campaign that I have set up, called the Longevity. And the thing about the Imperial Fists, their special thing is that they can just call down bombardments from the ship in orbit down on their enemies. Then we have Black Templars, who have special stuff for their crusade, basically fucking over the enemy to bring it on. Not someone who likes drafted recruits. Yeah, well, the Black Templars will take a lot of draftees. And the Templars, as they are a successor of the Fists, instead of having another ability down here, they just get to pick one of the war gear options from the Imperial Fists. Knights, this is your Dark Angels. They get their abilities. Cloak to be extra knighty. A special power sword to be extra knighty. And then abilities. Special stuff for melee. And a blessing of honor. Oath of Caliban. And Dark Angels. Most of these are trying to kind of stay faithful to the flavor of Space Marine, while also fitting in line with specific attributes, mechanics within the game itself. Iron Hands, extra Tech Marine equipments, a special plasma pistol, their oath of steel, the weakness of my flesh, strength of steel, Iron Hand stuff, a special blessing of willpower, and they actually have a thing that gives them bonus labor, but minus willpower, depending on how many limbs they replace with robotic parts. As you know, the Iron Warriors love to replace their limbs with robotic counterparts. Doing so makes you stronger, but makes you weaker in will. Because, you know, you're more metal than man. We have our vampires, the Sons of Sanguinius, Blood Angels. They get special vampire stuff. Start with crack grenades, and their abilities are all faith and red thirst, basically being anytime they execute an enemy. Execution is something you can do whenever you are killing an enemy, or if an enemy it goes into the dying state after they get down to 0 HP. There are a few specific abilities that let you execute not at the dying state, but that's separate. Whenever they execute, they can consume the flesh of an enemy and basically heal themselves and boost themselves up vampire style. But it can make them go mad. The 2 players I had go mad, fall a corn, and become a demon prince were both members of the Blood Angels. So it seems to be mechanically incentivized. And then obviously Raven Guard, stealthy. They have the ability to enter stealth when they're just in the battlefield with the I forget what it's called. Everyone's gay for Sanguinius. That's fair. Like the stealth boy that you have in Space Marine 2 and stuff like that. You get that with the Raven Guard. Go into stealth. Special binoculars, stuff like that. Extra blessings of stealth. They do extra damage coming out of stealth. Things like that. All stealth based. Then, yeah. Last but not least, White Scars. who begin with a war bike. Just because I felt like it would make sense if they didn't start with just a bike. Should not work when it comes to stealth anything. Yeah, but C, they get it anyways. White Scars are all speed and doing it quickly. Basically, White Scars, you see here, do it quickly. Their ability, basically makes them stronger at the beginning of battle, but if an encounter goes on for too long, they kind of lose their edge and lose that bonus. Their Condus's chapters, you mean the successors? I'm not familiar with how they separate the successors, but they are cool. They are, the very Mongolian-esque chapter. All speed, no stopping. And then we have embarrassed chapters. Now, as members of Deathwatch, they are kind of allowed to exist, although they wouldn't go out and tell anyone that they come from these chapters. These are specific chapters of Space Marines that 10,000 years ago betrayed the Emperor of Mankind, and most of them fell to chaos. Now, these are classes that very specifically, if a player wanted to, could play as one of these traitor legions in Deathwatch, who are just embarrassed, who just don't show their iconography, and just sort of exist as a very embarrassed loyalist, forever proving their loyalty by serving in the Deathwatch. And these all have very specific abilities that are tied into what the chapters are known for when they fell to chaos, and are probably a little bit more susceptible to chaos in that way. First of all, we have Night Lords. They get special stuff. Blessings of Fear. These are more... You'll see a lot of the abilities and the blessings of the traitor, the heretic chapters, are more... intangible, whereas the loyalists, all of theirs are based on the hard set mechanics of the game. Blessings of speed, blessings of attributes, your labor, order, willpower, faith, everything like that. With the traitors, you have stuff that is more like reaching for power and is more almost arbitrary in a way that it doesn't directly influence mechanics that already exist, but they are fit specifically for that chapter. So Night Lords, obviously, they're evil Batman, and they like to torture people. They have a Blessing of Fear, where they can make enemies afraid of them as they go, obviously depending on what types of enemies there are. Like, you can't really make Tyranids afraid of you, but if you're fighting, say, like regular-ass humans, like Traitor Guardsmen or something like that, you can kind of make them shit their bricks and run away. World Eaters, obviously, Conquerors, they get special stuff. They get the Butcher's Nails, which makes them strong when they're low on health. Blessing of Carnage, which basically allows them to regain shield rapidly if they are killing a certain number of enemies within their turn. And they do have an ability that is identical to the ability the Space Marine Captain had. It's just a bit stronger. So if you're playing as a Space Marine Captain, you don't get both. It does say on that slide that this ability will just take it over. But you do basically get access to it if you play as any of the other archetypes, and then also choose World Eater to go with it. We have the Death Guard, who gets special stuff, biochemical weapons, noxious grenades, and basically special abilities for sitting within their poison clouds. Word bearers, you have loyalist word bearers who still preach the good truth that the God Emperor is a god, and now in the 41st millennium, the rest of the Imperium agrees. So they kind of get the opposite of the Ultramarine thing, where the Ultramarines are based entirely on order, and the Codex Astartes doesn't really talk about the Emperor as a god. You have here with word bearers is in the opposite, where the God Emperor is God. And they have an ability here and their blessing and their extra ability here, which is kind of like vicious mockery in D&D, but specifically for telling off demons and heretics in Warhammer. So you can tell demons that their gods are fake gods and that the God Emperor is the one true god, and really fuck up their day. And then obviously, Emperor's Children, they're all about perfection. They get extra stuff. They get to re-roll their, like any failures on the dice and stuff like that to basically make up for their mistakes and make sure they're just absolutely perfect. So, moving on from Space Marines, we have Sisters of Battle, which are weaker on average than Space Marines, but still not, like, they're not bad. They're just more specialized, specifically into anti-chaos. Emperor's Children has a lot in common with Ultramarines. I mean, yeah, they're very much like orderly. The main difference is that Space Marines use order as like a doctrine to lead them through life. Emperor's Children use it to boost themselves up, and they have a lot of like pride and ego wrapped up around it, where Ultramarines are more like disciplined about it. Yapping a lot today. Sisters of Battle. Again. Mainly, biggest thing is they use more faith. Obviously, you see they get faith and fury bonuses out the gate. Better against chaos, against demons. Versus Deathwatch was more Xenos focused, more anti-alien, or just kind of anti-everything. Space Marines are a switchblade. It can do a lot of different things pretty okay. Sisters of Battle are more like a sword, but a sword specifically for killing demons. And okay at killing other things, but, you know, not as well. You have your standard Sister of Battle with a lasgun and a power sword and or a chain sword and special abilities for their faith and basically helping them stand out against stronger battles. Space Nun faction? Yeah, nuns in space. Nuns with guns. A lot of the Battle Sisters things is about being overwhelmed or outnumbered. So if they are attacking an enemy that is stronger than them, or they are outnumbered by enemies, they get special abilities that allow them to call on their faith in the God Emperor and things like that to hold out against said enemies. You have Sisters Zephyrims, which are basically Battle Sisters with jetpacks, and they're a little bit insane. Again, special weapons, pistol, power sword, chain sword, all that stuff. Extra abilities for flying, and has a massive boost of faith because they don't have the ability to speak, which is a real thing in the lore, which I implemented here. If your player is choosing to play as a Zephyrim, they cannot speak Gothic. They kind of just ramble in ways that are incoherent to most people, but a lot of the sisters interpret it as, what do you call it? Like communion with the gods, or with the God Emperor specifically. But they're big on faith because they've proven themselves in order to reach this status. Then we have the Parallel War suits. These are kind of close to like a Space Marine Dreadnought, just a little bit weaker. This is the strongest that's Sisters of Battle get in this system. You can see that's a unit level of 7 that puts them up next to like the Space Marine Terminators. And then they get their abilities obviously related to the suit itself, and then the weapons that are attached to the suit that you cannot swap out and pick up and exchange with others. Hold on, I'm just checking something. And then we have Sisters Repentia. If you don't know, Sisters of Repentance are battle sisters that have been basically disowned, and they seek redemption in the fires of battle. They have their armor stripped from them, and their only thing is to kill basically as many enemies of the Emperor as they can, until they literally die. So, redeem yourself or die trying, literally. And then we have all the different sister orders. These are not the main 4 orders of sisterhood. These are just a bunch of different successor orders, effectively, that I just went and picked out to kind of pick ones that were more unique from each other. You'll see with the Sisters of Battle and the Agents of the Imperium, there is not nearly as many subclasses as there were for Space Marines. We had 9 Loyalists and 4 Heretic chapters for Space Marines. There is only 4 of the Sisterhood orders. So you have what do you have? The Eternal Flame. They get special shield stuff. Things for flame and everything else. Never got around to it yet. There's a lot. There's so much shit into all of these. These obviously are the same as the Space Marine chapters, where they get special war gear, and then they get abilities and an oath to kind of hold themselves to as they go through. Then you have the Order of the Rose. Special abilities. These ones sacrifice one of their eyes to the God Emperor to make them kind of being able to pick up on chaos corruption more easily. You have the Blue of the Azure Sky, which are more helping out their teammates. These are the ones who will bless your allies with health and resistance to help yourself out, as well as putting demons down. And then the Burning Horizon. These are the sisters who will get massive heavy melta gun and melta grenades, melta bombs, effectively, and just do a fuck ton of extra damage. It's like if you wanted a battle sister that gets close to being like a Space Marine, this is where you want to go. Then, see how quickly we ran through Sisters of Battle compared to Space Marines? We have Agents of the Imperium. These, I thought about making like the Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard, who are the traditional boots-on-the-ground soldiers, its own thing, but with Sisters of Battle and Space Marines, I wanted to pick out specific members of the Guard and Inquisition and things like that are just a step above. So that's where we get Agents of the Imperium. This is kind of just overall a wide-ranging group of members of the Imperium that rank high and would have more privileges and or more abilities given to them relative to the others like in their cast, like other members of the Guard and things like that. So you start out, we have an Inquisitor in power armor who gets a fuckload of powerful abilities, powerful weapons right off the bat, powerful melee right off the bat. They are just a straight up dude, but they're kind of close to a Space Marine in strength. Obviously extra abilities, and the Inquisition is going to be immune to like frightening effects and things like that. Inquisition comes in your neighborhood, run? Yeah. The thing is, Inquisitors technically, very, very technically, on paper technically, can kind of tell anyone to do anything. Now, the thing with that is they can. That doesn't mean that the person they tell it to has to follow through, which can also have a lot of interesting effects or dynamics when you're playing through with a party at the table. You have rogue traders, which are basically just like really rich, spoiled kids. They're like people from noble households and stuff who have their own spaceship and are kind of allowed to do whatever as long as their goals are helping humanity for the greater good. Like, these are the standard RPG protagonists of Warhammer 40k, and I think these predate Warhammer 40k as a setting even. They're like space pirates. So because rogue traders are kind of on their own and they don't like have a specific loyalty to any army or chapter or anything like that, they can also take allies from like the Eldar and the Tau and stuff that like normally humanity won't work with. but they just have a lot of special political power and things like that. If you want to play as, like, this is your chaotic neutral class, this is your Jack Sparrow class that kind of just does whatever. You have Honored Ogryn. Obviously, Ogryn are really, really stupid, but they're very powerful. An Ogryn could crush a Space Marine's head inside its helmet. So they have very, very powerful weapons, very, very powerful armor, and they are just really fucking strong if they get a hold of you. Hello, Octolate. Thank you. It is cool, yeah. So they also have this thing where their loyalty. Is there an option for GSC? I don't know. Hold on. What is GSC? I'm trying to think what that stands for. Type that out, because it's not coming to me right away. Rogue Trader can do anything as long as they have Imperium's blessing. Pretty much, yeah. They can kind of do whatever they feel like, as long as no like Inquisitor like squints too hard at them or anything like that. They're good. But for the Ogryn, because they are so loyal, they can just kind of straight up be lied to. Like a lot of the Ogryn during the Horus Heresy, when the Imperium split in half, the ones that were fighting against the God Emperor, Genestealer Cult. Oh, I don't have Genestealer Cult as like classes. I don't even think I have them as enemies. So no. But all of the classes and stuff, that we've been talking about, if you go back to rewatch the stream, this will be getting cut out and put up as a visual guide on the channel as well as again I gotta reopen Discord. If you want access to the full text guide, I'm going to link the Discord in chat. If you join the Discord, this entire slideshow that's got everything I've been going over in it is up on the Discord. Can we paste? There we go. Send that. I forgot I was saying something about Ogryn. They're not smart, but they're strong as shit. So if you want the all-out, all strength, no brains, this is your one to go with. And then obviously, veteran guardsmen gain extra survivability and stuff. No, you're cool. Like I said, if you want to go back and rewatch the stream, or I will be editing this down to something more concise. This is just me sitting here and kind of explaining it, because there's a lot of stuff in this guide that I made that is very, very specific, because I'm the only one who's ever run this as a game master, and I kind of wanted to put this out there, but I wanted to go through it so that if anyone has any confusion about different things, they could use this as a reference to be like, oh, that's what that's supposed to mean. Obviously, it's in the Discord as well, so if you have any questions, you can always just ping me there's like a channel or a thread specifically for the TTRPG in the Discord if you had any questions there as well. But guardsmen, they get extra stuff for surviving, because when most guardsmen in Warhammer 40k have an average lifespan of about 15 hours, a guardsman who's been alive for way longer than that, who's been alive for weeks, if not years, is somebody to be afraid of. And that's the kind of guardsman you're playing when you're taking this. So obviously they have kind of basic weapons and stuff like that, but they're just really, really good at surviving on the battlefield when they are fighting alongside literally the Angels of Death and all the horrors that Warhammer has to offer. And then you have, so for Agents of the Imperium, they have their survival doctrines. So they have, leading by example, being up front and center, making a good example for the other soldiers they fight with. Fury and Flame, which is kind of like the you work best when you're trapped in a corner. Information Domination, which is kind of the Inquisitor or Mechanicus type thing, where you take information that may be classified and or dangerous and use it to your advantage, or use it to fuck up the enemy. And then you have Hammer Protocol, which is why use a scalpel when you can use a hammer, where you just sort of try to overwhelm your enemy rather than, responding to the enemy. Make sure you overwhelm them before anything even gets started. As again, you get your 2 warrior options, a bunch of different abilities. say like the leader starts with a small squadron, which is actually you get a unit balance and you would be able to get NPC units to follow you around. You have the frenzy, which again, this is kind of along the same lines as the Sisters of Battle, where they're built to be in the underdog position, where if they are, what do you call it? Being overwhelmed by the enemy, they kind of tend to fight better when they're on the back foot. Information domination, you get extra stuff with order, special technology, and special things about, sewing out, controlling the flow of information, even within the Imperium, so you can lie to your allies if you feel like it. And then obviously, Hammer Protocol, if you're going through this. Hey everybody, holy shit, it's a lot of new people. You get your specialty gear, and kind of like how the leader thing, you start with a small group of NPCs. For this one, it's set out, it tells you exactly what you're going to start out with as far as NPCs that you're leading, but it's a couple of starties and guardsmen to make sure that you arrive fully stacked for whatever you're doing. Live chat wasn't working for a sec? Oh, okay. Yeah, YouTube will do that. It'll just like stutter and have a heart attack every once in a while. I don't know why. I've had OBS already crashed once tonight, so it's it's been a rough one. And then moving on. This is a series of classes that I wouldn't necessarily recommend anyone use, at least not for a first run, or at least if you don't have a thing figured out. These are very, very, very powerful classes that are mainly reserved for, like, if you are playing with your game master in a group and you're like, we don't want to play as Space Marines, we don't really want to play as Sisters of Battle or Guardsmen, like, we want to feel the full experience of the Warhammer power fantasy. That's what these classes are for. As you can see, the average unit level I have this for is set to 19, which is right below the God Emperor, Chaos Gods, everything like that. It's powerful stuff. This is basically turning on, cheats in a video game. That's what these classes are for. And you can see in the description here, there are very, very specific stuff for game masters, female custodies. If you really wanted to, yes, you could. That these classes don't even get subclasses. They are just really, really, really powerful characters for you to fuck around on if you wanted a campaign that was entirely balls to the walls and followed the Crusade or Odyssey of really powerful heroes within the Imperium. So, these are not entirely finished out. I am kind of still working on them. They're most of the way there, but not entirely. Your first one is Living Saints, which are mostly Sisters of Battle. There are some guardsmen and some members throughout the Imperium that can also become Living Saints. This is mainly going to be up between you and your Game Master, who gets special abilities to basically cleanse the battlefield of demons and make sure that they don't die, because they are effectively immortal in a way, blessed by the Emperor's light. Living Saints, incredibly fucking powerful. Gilded Custodes. If you wanted to play as a Custodes, a custodian of the Emperor, go through and be literally one of the strongest fighters on the boards, that's what this is. Again, you get abilities for dueling enemies or stepping in front of allies and stuff like that. This is probably the most balanced one if you ran it with regular characters. Like if you wanted to have a campaign set around a handful of guardsmen. Let me bring up my angel. Yeah. If you wanted to have like a campaign that was set around like 4 or 5 guardsmen, and then one of the guardsmen was just like under the protection of a Custodes, and you have like a 5th player play as the Custodes who was like trying to keep that guy alive, you could definitely do that. And that's kind of what this is for. You have Knights of the Imperium, obviously. Giant death machines. If a knight is shooting at you, you're fucked. A lot of bad stuff is going to happen. And that's what the knight is here for. If you want something that is just absolutely demonstrably powerful and will just obliterate anything it comes across, this is the special out of whack class specifically for that. And then last, definitely not least, if you wanted to play as a Lost Primarch, still working on stuff for this, and the thing I had at the top of the description for these Heroes of the Imperium stuff, the Walking Church, no, that would be an Imperator Titan. It's not quite that strong, the Knight, but it is still quite strong. Like, a Knight could 1v1 most of the Primarchs. They are still fucking powerful death machines, even if they aren't Imperator Titan strong. But this is something I had on the, what do you call it? The main title slide for the Heroes of the Imperium, is that if you're doing something with a Lost Primarch, you and your game master should work together to probably make some other abilities that make your specific Lost Primarch feel more integrated into the universe. Because if you're unfamiliar with the Primarchs, Sons of the Emperor, there's 18, technically 19 that we know of. 9 of them remained loyal, 9 of them fell to chaos. There are 2 of them who were either executed or disappeared or went into the cosmos and were never seen again, but were stripped from all Imperial records. This is basically a class to reintroduce that idea for you, the player, to come in and play as one of these lost Primarchs. Gonna play Alfarius in a game. Yeah, your Lost Primarch could just be Alfarius pretending to be someone else. That could definitely be what you go with. But that's what that is. And if you were here from the beginning, you know I had a thing for AdMech. That's not here. I have plans to make AdMech classes and stuff like that. And if you're in the Discord, I leave update posts and stuff whenever I do update stuff to the guide, like patch notes, basically. And you can go through, and whenever I do add AdMech classes and stuff like that, that will be in the Discord updated for when those are added. This is a list of extra war gear, weapons, equipment, and stuff that you can run into. 18, 19, 20, or 21, nobody knows. There's no real answer. Technically, it's 21. Most of the Primarchs would say 20. If you're looking for named Primarchs, it's 19. Because Alfarius Omegon is 2 people, but for a lot of people, they can, like, a lot of the Primarchs only think it's 1 dude. So that's why it's a bit of a a gray area. It depends if you're counting the twins as 1 person or 2. Or if the twins are even really twins. If I remember right, I don't even know if it's practically confirmed. Or maybe it was just something that only Horus knew and none of the others knew. That's a whole different rabbit hole. But this is basically just a list of extra abilities and stuff for somebody as a game master can give to their players. Special abilities, servo skulls, homing beacons, special abilities for your armor and things like that. Special weapons, from grav guns to heavy meltas to thunder hammers to special claws to storm shields to a custodes spear, power fists, a last fusel, an iron halo, or a chapter standard that gives you a bunch of bonuses. This is basically just a lot of different powerful abilities and stuff for you to pick up. As deciding the figure of a mystery. Yeah, the Alpha Legion just fucks around. These are more weapons like the ones that were at the top of the thing. This is also not really finished out. But say if you really wanted to pick up weapons from the enemy, Deathwatch can do that. They have to be blessed, I believe, by the chaplain. Come back and watch this from the beginning. Yeah, you're welcome to do that. I will also be editing this down into a YouTube video if you want to come back for that as well. That will be on the channel, and it will be, cleaned up a little bit. This is not entirely done, but if you're taking weapons from the enemy, you could do that. It just has to be blessed before you take them into battle. These are like servo boosters. These are things for your Space Marines to fix yourself up. Think of it as single-use potions, stuff like that you would run into. Different sets of armor for your various characters to get stronger as they go. Did I skip one? No. Yeah, very cool. These are... We're getting into more of the lore and the campaign I have pre-made for this TTRPG, which technically, if you were doing your own thing, you don't have to use any of these. If you have like a very specific campaign or something you wanted to set up in the lore and the story I have built for it, these are all tied into it. So you have the Longevity, which is a cruiser of the Death Watch, which is going to be a main base of operations, a battle barge for your players to be using as a base of operations. The Black Wall, which is a Death Watch temple, a Space Marine temple. It's basically like a big barracks for Space Marines that is on one of the planets in the system that they will also use as a base of operations. And then a giant floating cathedral that is also above one of the planets. Because what's more Imperium than a cathedral in space? And they all have different upgrades and things like that your players can do. So it's kind of like you're building up your home base as the campaign ramps up, and you have more to help you out as it goes on as well. So you have the Longevity. Things like cannons and stuff, like this is what the, Imperial Fists had, where they can call down orbital bombardments, Helldiver style, as well as the reinforcements, which you can call down as well for if you're not playing as a hero, as a named character, if you're playing as the replaceable, infantry soldier. This is what determines how many times you can respawn effectively during the campaign or between deployments of the characters going on missions and quests and things like that. Stuff for the Black Wall, this is specifically for the planet that it's on, things like that. In the giant space cathedral, where, if you don't know, the 666 garrison of Warhammer 40k, Grey Knights, are here. In case things get too bad and you as the game master need something to basically help the players out. As well as stats, different stat blocks for different allies and things you might run into, NPCs that you might want to take. So you have everything from the basic Imperial Guardsman. As you can see, it's set up kind of like the subclasses, all the NPC stat blocks, where you have weapons here at the top, that just deal flat damage to the enemies, different abilities for said NPC, and then on the right, all of their base stats, their actions, how fast they are. That was a weird blip. What their armor is and how much health they have. You have regular guardsmen, you have guardsmen with ordnance, anti-tank type stuff, up to tanks. If you wanted to take a knight as an NPC, give it to your players so they can get a little bit of support as they go. Taking Space Marines as NPCs, heavier Space Marines, or even obviously Grey Knights as NPC allies. And I might add more to this list just so there's more than 2 for each sub-faction of the Imperium. But I don't tend to use a lot of NPC allies when I run campaigns. And then this is very specific to the campaign that I have built around this whole system. This is the Erebos system. It is a solar system, an apocalyptic solar system, made up of 5 planets, and on each planet, something horrible is going on. So, they are organized by threat level, basically, generally, how strong the enemies on each planet will be, based on the factions that are fighting there, based on how strong said factions are to the player. So you have Hayden starting at number 1. This is where your Death Watch Temple is, the Black Wall. You'll find that there. Barbas, world being attacked by orcs. Rashaban is a Necron tomb world. It's got some lore story stuff going on there. I need to make a GM guide so you can run the story that I have planned out for this, because most of it is just in my head and I haven't taken the time to translate it to the page, but it is also there. Black Sun is a world being taken over by demons, and then Pestis is a world taken over specifically by Nurgle. it just gets worse and worse and worse. And this is basically a varied system of a bunch of different factions all fighting at once, just so you can have the excuse of like, well, I want my players to fight Tyranids, and I want my players to fight orcs, and I want them to fight chaos, and I want them to fight some Necrons, and you can get that variety in there of kind of everything is going wrong all at once, and your players are not expected to survive because of how shitty everything is. But that's, it's just there for you to interact with. And then obviously we have a lot of different, impressively long, well-made PowerPoint. Thank you. It's been a lot. It's not close to done, but there's a lot going on here. We've got a bunch of different Xenos and Chaos factions and stuff. Some of them are a little bit incomplete because I haven't gotten far enough in my campaigns to necessitate needing the stat blocks for certain enemies, so I just haven't completed them all the way yet, or they're a little bit undercooked. Some of them there. You'll see there in the middle, Blackwatch. That is a specific custom-made or a home-brewed enemy faction of heretical space marines that I have cooked into my campaign. That is also included here in this guide. So if we go through, you'll see all the enemies are kind of laid out similarly to the classes. You have your average unit level. Orcs is 7. So if your player characters are unit level 7 or right around there, they'll be able to fight orcs pretty much no problem. Your 40k fanfic is just a Space Marine chapter teaming up with Eldar to fight a Gene Stealer cult on a planet in the middle of an orc invasion, with the twist being Necrons. There's so much going on in that. But yeah. And then each enemy faction, so like these, like you'll see here at the bottom, there is a bunch of specific abilities to the orcs that all orcs have. And then as you go through each orc enemy, they have specific abilities and stats unique to different enemy types, as well as the classification. You can see in the bottom left, you have like small infantry, different levels of infantry, vehicle, monster, everything like that. Who are the Blackwatch descended from? We will get into that when we get to them. But as we see orcs, you just get orcs, you get bigger and bigger and bigger orcs until you get to like the big orcs. Tau, obviously. You have Tau drones, fire warriors, all the different battle suits going on. There's so much. I don't necessarily think it's too important to go through each and every one of the enemies. They just are there. Most of it reads the same. You get unit level, 2 attacks, all of their base stats, and then a bunch of abilities for them as well. And then they just move stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger on the pole. Some of them are probably, like, say, like Tau with the Storm Surge. This is Imperium propaganda. The Storm Surge should technically, by the level of the unit, like the unit level system I have in here, should be more up in line with like the Imperial Knights and stuff like that. But it's just a bit weaker and has a lot less health because the Tau in this system are like a low level army for your players to fight that would be easier to take on even the upper end of them, you know. Tyranids, they've got all their hive mind stuff and everything like that going on. Moving all the way from Ripper Swarms, which are kind of just there to be a pest. Then you've got your Termagants, the winged Ripper Swarms, Nom Nom Boys, exactly. Barbagants, Von Ryan's Leapers, the Tyranid Warriors. You can see some of these have like blank spots here for abilities and stuff. Those are the ones that I just haven't gotten time to get around to yet. Stalkers, the Screamer Killer, Psychophage, Nero Tyrant, and then a big Tyranid Dragon, just in case you really want to fuck over your players. This is not nearly the strongest they get, though. And then a Biotitan. World Eaters, obviously, play a big point, having the Chaos Space Marines in here. There's no specifically like generic Chaos Space Marine. Maybe that would be a good faction to introduce rather than having... Maybe. That might be something I work on in the future. Obviously, you go from like the Jackal's Traitor Guard to World Eater Marines, shitty Chaos Apothecaries, Berserkers, and stuff like that, Terminators, and even Dreadnoughts. And you'll see, especially with a lot of the enemy factions, you could see it big here with the World Eaters, is that some enemies will have the same ability, but it's just a stronger or weaker version of the ability. Say, like the World Eaters, their big thing is they want to get right up in your face and fuck you over when they get right up to you. Say, like the World Eater Terminator has a grapple attack it can use on players to basically just ruin their day. The Dreadnought has the same grapple attack, it just ruins their day even harder. So a lot of the units within a faction may share abilities and stuff like that. They will just be stronger and or weaker depending on, its role in the the faction as a whole. This is the Blackwatch. Now, God damn. There we go, we're fixed. Sorry, I fucking unplugged my microphone. I need a better way to position this so I don't have like the cord right in front of my face, because I'm going to keep doing that. The Blackwatch are a renegade chapter of Space Marines that are homebrewed for me for this campaign. They are effectively, because we are in a system mainly dominated by the Deathwatch. There is a Deathwatch temple in the system on Hayden's. There's a lot of members of Deathwatch here. The Blackwatch are a kind of doomsday cult of the Space Marines who believe that like the way that they need to serve the Emperor's will is to cleanse the galaxy, because the galaxy is so fucked, it's so rotten, everything fucking sucks to the point where it would be better for the Imperium and mankind as a whole to wipe it from the face of the galaxy, and maybe hopefully start anew afterwards in a rebirth, like a Ragnarok type situation, rather than trying to like staggeringly coexist with all of the chaos and aliens that exist in the Warhammer 40k galaxy. And that's effectively what the Blackwatch are. They're not chaos. They're not. They don't like aliens or the Chaos Gods. They're still anti that. They are still pro the Emperor. They are just like a doomsday cult, effectively. And then you'll see you've got all the different renegade guards and the Blackwatch Marines and stuff like that. And there is specific abilities here that state that the Blackwatch have access to all of the same Vox communications and things like that as the player characters, if the player characters are Space Marines. Basically meaning the biggest thing about the Blackwatch is that they're kind of Alpha Legion in that way, where their tactics are going to wrap around fucking with the players to throw them off the scent as they're going on trying to do their own mission throughout the galaxy, if not trying to recruit the players to their cause, which is, it's a TTRPG. If the players really, really want to do that, they could do that. Because just sort of how it works, and it's your job as a game master if you're running like this campaign to facilitate that. And they just move up throughout the thing. You get tougher Marines, Psychers to deal with, and then even like Blackwatch captains. Thousand Sons, obviously, Sorcerer, Chaos, Space Marines, a lot of Psyker bullshit. These ones are also not really filled out, but these are supposed to be like small elite enemies to just really fuck with your players if they ever get too close to the warp. You get different Thousand Sons, incomplete up to Sorcerers and stuff like that, Terminators. And then we have what I describe as bosses. These are tough characters to fight. that belong to each different enemy faction. Like, each faction has their own boss, and most of these bosses are not intended to be defeated. Some of them, like the Tyranids or the Tau, you can get away with, or like the Black Watch boss is obviously something that you're intended to fight at the end of the campaign. The rest of these are mainly there, so when things get bad enough, these are the enemies you throw at your players to be like, yeah, you need to leave, or you need to be really, really lucky. I have had players get lucky with these once upon a time, and even one of these here, if you see this big lovely corn fellow on the left, Salazar, is actually one of the characters one of my friends was running in a one-shot of this, who fell to chaos in record time. But it worked out so well in the campaign and like narratively and everything that I just made him into a full-time boss within the game itself. So if you go through, you've got the big Quark. The bosses all have their own special abilities, things like that tie into their faction or make them really, really, really powerful. You've got a giant Tau gunship you got to deal with. It's got its own things about going up into orbit and then coming down to do bombing runs and then going up into orbit, and kind of like you have to play around it. You got the big massive Tyranid to deal with. Necron Lord. It's one of the ones you probably throw at your players to ruin their day. This is the leader of the Black Watch. His whole thing. If I write up a guide for the campaign, this will probably be the one boss that gets the most love put into the concept of the encounter that you fight him in. And then there's stat blocks here for people like Angeron. Angeron is a demon Primarch of the World Eaters. As you can see, his top, it's not really like an ability, but his top feature here at the top here is that the Primarch will not stop. If you come across him, you either have to kill him or or die, because he will not let you get away. These are not really intended. These are kind of like the same idea as the Heroes of the Imperium classes. Like, if you wanted to do a campaign where you're like, I want to play as a Lost Primarch, followed by an entourage of a Living Saint, an Imperial Knight, and some Custodes, and we're going to go hunt down Angeron, one of the Demon Princes. That's where that's for. Because if you're playing as regular people, if you're just playing as regular Space Marines with like a Sister of Battle and a Guardsman, you're not going to be Angeron. Or at least you shouldn't. Unless you really, really buff yourself up. But more likely than not, you're going to get taken out. And that's kind of in the inverse of the Heroes of the Imperium being really, really playing into the power fantasy. The bosses are here to put you down and kind of humble you. And then obviously there's individual demon princes that are kind of also really strong, but these are just so you can throw chaos flavored bosses at the players that are not super powerful, but are also fairly strong as well. Obviously you get the Nurgle one, Tzeentch, Slaanesh, and that is it. That is the end of this guide as it is. Enemies in the boss. Our internet is shitting out? Mine's doing okay. I don't really know. I can't do anything about that right now. But that is the end of the guide. There is so much in here. It really just flies through. But yeah, the stream's doing well. Well, I'm hooked up through Ethernet. I think the Wi-Fi is having issues because it's been really, really stormy the last few days. But that is the end of this guide. I don't think I have anything else to add. Obviously, if you're here, you joined us later on, you can go back and rewatch the stream. Or, like I said a few times now already, I will be editing it down to, be a video that you can reference in the future for these kinds of things. And if anyone had questions or anything, let me know in chat before we move on, because we are also going to go do... Okay. There's a video by our good buddy Ice Cold Snake. I don't even know what it's about. I didn't check. But we're going to go watch that. And then... Oh, he changed his icon. That's cool. Wow, he's made a few new videos. I need to see which one he wanted me to watch. Where is it? Stormrise. Okay. But if we don't have any more questions or anything like that, we are going to be moving on to the Yap Fest. Close that out real quick. I find it weird that YouTube like shows me my own videos to watch. Where is Ice? Somebody get Ice in here. Tell him that I'm watching his his videos. We can kill the music. I don't need that anymore. But I hope you guys liked the Warhammer guide. And it is... I should probably drop one more time. If you're watching and you want access to the guide, join the Discord. It is in there. There's a channel in the Discord called Multimedia Creations, where I post projects like that in that entire guide. The link to it on Google is in there, along with a list of like updates and stuff. If I ever go through and I add stuff to it, or change stuff around, make like balancing changes and stuff as I play test it and as I go through it, that's all in there. So go through, join the Discord. Whenever this gets cut out into a video, it'll be down there in the description as well, for anyone watching. But yeah, join the Discord. All the updates and stuff like that are in there for you to enjoy, maybe run your own campaign of it with your friends or anything like that. And that is effectively it. Oh, I know why that was making noise, actually. That makes sense. That should be working now. Sound, SWB. Let's bring back Google. And we can embiggen it. Is Stormrise the worst RTS ever made? Again, if you haven't joined us for this, this is Ice Cold Snake, good buddy of mine, making retrospectives on games from basically the 360 era mainly. High pressure fun is forcibly drawn into its low pressure void. Principles of what? Principles of fluid dynamics. What is it on about? Hold on. Okay. Well, I think we'll just get into it and yap for a little bit. It's a 35-minute video, so we'll be here for at least 7 hours. Let's see what this is. I've never heard of this game. Sega. Interesting.
you've probably never heard of. If you have heard of it, it's even more likely that you didn't play it. Or if you're like me, you spotted it at a Hollywood video, you rented it for the weekend, and you immediately regretted your decision. I mean, looking back on it, I'm pretty sure I only played like maybe 1 or 2 hours of the game before I took it back and rented something else. But after my End War video just popped the fuck off last year, I figured why not finally give it a fair shake 16 years later. So I'm Ice Cold Snake, and welcome back to Games We Skipped, the series where we take a look at the games that flew under the radar and went mostly forgotten. These games ended up overlooked by many, including me. But now, years later, I'm diving back in to see what we all missed. And that brings us to Stormrise, a console RTS or real-time tactics game that comes to us from Creative Assembly, with Sega publishing the title in March of 2009. Creative Assembly is of course well known for their work on the Total War series for PC, and Stormrise was their attempt.
Oh, are they still doing Total War? Are they still on it? Shit. Because they're working on now a Total War. Hold on, I'm trying to fix my lighting situation here. This light fucking sucks. Come on. What the fuck, dude? There we go. I'm not bathed in darkness. I do know they are making a Total War like 40K game. I wonder if they're the same guys who made Total War Warhammer in general, and or if they're making the 40K one. That'd be interesting to know.
To break into the console RTS market by innovating on the elements of strategy games. Rather than the traditional top-down camera, Stormrise would opt for a locked over-the-shoulder view of the units, similar to third-person shooters. There was also a focus on adding verticality to the levels, allowing troops to climb stairs and other objects to fight along rooftops, and requiring the player to gather information using units' line of sight. And to get around the limitations of controlling a strategy game with a gamepad, instead of, a keyboard with dozens of buttons within reach, they introduced the innovative Whip Select feature to allow for quick unit selection using the right thumbstick. All of this sounds great on paper, but it just sucked ass in practice. In fact, I realized while I was writing this that there are no videos, there's no wikis, there's no rambling Reddit posts, and there's not even a Steam discussion out there for me to reference for what the story or the gameplay of this game is about. So if someone wants to know anything about Stormrise, they're gonna have to go and do a full playthrough themselves like there's some masochistic reviewer of shitty retro games. So I figured, fuck it, man. I guess I drew the shortest straw and I get to be the historian to document this pile of worthless garbage and hopefully save one soul from any lingering thoughts of, I wonder what Stormrise is really about. So strap in, motherfuckers, because I'm about to eviscerate a 16-year-old game in the hopes that some strangers will watch my videos, get some entertainment, and subscribe to my channel to fill me with the sweet, sweet embrace of internet clout. So the story of Stormrise starts off with a bang.
It's not... See, the difference is that like Metal Gear is like globally renowned. I don't think this game is close to being globally recognized anywhere at all.
Set in a sci-fi future, humanity launches satellites and builds generators to control the Earth's weather and prevent natural disasters. The system malfunctions, causing massive firestorms that engulf much of the planet. To save the human race, a group of government officials and military personnel stow themselves away in cryosleep inside of massive bunkers, while the general population are left to survive. Bucking the trend of nameless, faceless player commanders in RTS stories, we play as Aiden Geary. Geary witnesses the people left outside in the firestorms, and though he wants to save them, he knows he must enter his own cryosleep and leave them to their fate. Decades later, he's awoken by a woman named Ava over his comms, and Vantage and Huntsman, members of the Echelon, the new faction that formed from the leaders that survived in stasis. Geary discovers the other cryostasis pods are empty and all the other inhabitants are dead, and as they fly away, we see 2 members of the Psi faction, the group of mutated humans that survived the firestorms.
Let's go! They have him. We must break and pursue.
No. Our orders are to wait. Soon.
She have fucking... Does she have tentacles on her head?
He will be needing us.
So that's a really kick-ass and emotional opening scene. We get to see that humanity's fucked, the world is destroyed, and we get to see Geary's personality come through as he stares longingly into the eyes of a woman as she accepts her fate in Firestorm. And we can see that there's going to be mechs and mutants. It all looks promising. In fact, the note that I took on my phone during this cutscene was a very simple, damn, I wasn't expecting that. And then the story all goes to complete shit. But we'll come back to the story beats in a moment. I need to first explain the terribly developed gameplay mechanics that you'll have to suffer through for the 12 missions in service of this awful story. What's the most important thing a developer has to nail for people to enjoy their game? It's not the graphics or the audio, and it's not the characters, nor is it the story. It's the ability to control the game. Obviously, there are going to be some concessions when you go from a keyboard to a controller, especially in the RTS genre, but this is an RTS designed for console. They even said so themselves. So as I already mentioned, Creative Assembly put in a close-up over-the-shoulder camera that's locked to your units, very similar to End War. And actually, let's rip the band-aid off right now. I'm gonna compare Stormrise to End War a lot. End War released about 6 months before Stormrise. They're both real-time tactics games, both have the over-the-shoulder cameras locked to the units, and both were designed primarily for consoles and used innovative control schemes to let the player control the battlefield with the limited buttons of a controller. End War employed a voice command system, letting you control the units with a headset. It was pretty easy to just pull the trigger and shout a command to your units, or to tell the camera to switch between your units. Stormrise's innovative system was their main selling feature, the Whip Select system. The Whip Select system allows you to flick the right stick toward a unit and the camera quickly switches to their view. At first, it's a great gimmick that feels natural, but once the battle starts to fill with units, it's a goddamn clusterfuck trying to switch to the right unit. When you press the right joystick, you have to get this line to line up with the icon of the unit you want to switch to, but as the units move around, it becomes impossible to line it up correctly. Just look at this fucking mess. How am I supposed to pick the exact unit I want to switch to in this pile of icons? But don't take my word for it. Just watch this clip from the developers themselves showcasing the Whip Select feature before Stormrise's release. Watch how long it takes the demonstrator to target the desired unit among the cluster of unit icons on the left side of the screen. So what ends up happening in the heat of battle is you'll switch to one unit, realize you're on the wrong one, then you'll switch to another one and hope you hit the right one this time. You're constantly switching your camera around, and it's nearly impossible to keep track of where your units are or what they're doing. To make matters worse, you can only issue orders to the unit that you currently have.
Binary Domain did this. I feel like there's so many just doing something where you have like a quick list, like in End War, where he was showing where you have like the list and it like breaks down into more lists, is infinitely more efficient and faster even on console than looking. This is like it reminds me of like Fallout 4, where Todd Howard was like, you just click the face and drag, but it's like at times, yeah, very, very specifically, it'll work, and then other times you end up with something that just looks inhuman. Don't you gonna back this up and watch from the start? Watch the video and you post it. The video itself will probably be later this next week, probably sometime Monday through Thursday, before the Friday video. Technically, it's 2 streams because OBS died on me, so it's this stream and like the exact previous stream as well, if you're wanting to go through and watch the whole VOD, because I was live for about 50 minutes, close to an hour, before OBS just died and I had to restart. So like this stream technically starts like halfway through the guide, if you wanted to see it. But as well, join the Discord so you can get in and follow along with the stream if you wanted to, with the guide, because it's accessible. It's on Google. It's a Google slideshow, so it's just super accessible from like a web browser.
Have your camera tied to. There is a way to issue indirect orders, but it's so laughably fucking tedious that you'll never do it. To do it, you drag your cursor across the screen to find the icon of the unit you want to issue the indirect order to, then you press the X button, then you drag your cursor all the way back across the screen to where you want them to move. And while I'm complaining about the cursor, let me just say that it's really fucking annoying that the cursor isn't locked to the center of the screen. To rotate the camera, you can't just hit the right stick because, that's the Whip Select system. Instead, you have to drag the cursor all the way to the edge of the screen to start the rotation. Apparently, you can hold the right bumper to skip dragging the cursor, but I only learned about that during a loading screen on the 10th mission. And even when I tried it, it still sucks ass. End War and most RTS games for that matter solved this design issue by
Off-topic question. You seem to be the main Ben 10 Warhammer guy on YouTube. I think the hybrid and DN aliens would fare against 40k. Off the top of my head, I have no idea. My extensive knowledge of Ben 10 is not that great. It's been 8 to 10 months since I made the Ben 10 video. And like I got really into Ben 10 during that, and I haven't really gone back and like retained a lot of that information. I didn't know there's I know I have noticed a tick of Ben 10 Warhammer crossover content after I made that first video, because it did really well. I think it's my most viewed video on YouTube. It's like it's 250 reaching up to like 300,000 views now. And then like immediately after, I noticed there was like a bunch of like Reddit threads and like what's it called? Space battles, like the the power scale thread and stuff. Vilgax too. Yeah. It turned into like somewhat of a trend. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look through it. Vilgax, I guess it depends, because doesn't he also change like Ben 10, where he's stronger with like when he's like against Ben 10,000 than like the main one? He seems to be roughly like, I don't know, off the top of my head, based on how stupid Ben 10 can be, probably up there with like the weaker of the Primarchs at the very least, just because Ben 10 is stupid cartoon comic book nonsense land. Got a meme going. It's not quite a meme, but it was cool to see all the different people being like, oh, here's Ben 10 X Warhammer after that video went up, and it kind of like started a whole Tumblr effect I didn't expect. But yeah. I don't know about the two alien species, though. That would be... I'd have to look it up. And I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to do a Ben 10 video, but maybe I'll ask. Maybe I'll put out a poll for members and stuff to figure out, because I'm working on another Warframe video actually right now, and that'll be going up on Friday, because nobody liked the video I posted yesterday. So that'll be coming up next Friday. And then I don't know if we'll ever go back to Ben 10. I did Ben 10, and then I did Generator Rex, and then I did a Grimdark version of them both. But we'll see. Maybe it might come back if I feel like it.
Locking the cursor to the center of the screen, meaning the cursor functions pretty naturally with it rotating and snapping to your target. Using the right stick will let you rotate your view. All of this is pretty common, and it feels like you'd expect, you know, sort of like a third-person shooter. But because Stormrise has this stupid-ass cursor system, you're better off just trying to jump around between units rather than banging your head against the wall trying to do indirect orders. The main problem with the whip select system and the indirect orders comes down to the amount of actions it takes to order your army around. The End War team was smart enough to limit the number of units on the battlefield to 12, and in a stroke of genius, they put these unit cards at the bottom of the screen. The cards give you information about the units at a quick glance, and they can be cycled through with the use of the D-pad to make switching between and...
Next time on Buster Big Thunder, who would win in a fight, Ben 10 or Jesus Christ? Ben 10. Ben 10 can change the whole universe, you know? I don't think Jesus can do that. It's like, what is it? The Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and God are like all one and the same. But I mean, while he's Jesus Christ, he's just a dude. Like, he can heal people, he can walk on water. But what else is he gonna do, you know? Well, what is he gonna do against Alien X? I think Ben 10 takes that one. Whether or not Ben 10 could fight the Christian God, I have no fucking clue. I don't care to think about it too hard. But against Jesus, yeah, he could do that. Turn water into wine. I think he also heals the blind and shit too. But yeah, turning water into wine is one of his most notable feats. Yeah.
Issuing indirect orders pretty easy, unlike in Stormrise. Instead, in Stormrise, you can spawn in dozens of units.
There are dozens of us. Dozens!
Quickly filling your screen and overloading the whip select system.
I'm not even like... I'm not absorbing as much of this information as I should be. It's strange the way they like set that up, where you have to like this convoluted system, like where he says like, I agree with Snake, where he's like, it's too many actions to like get something done. You should be able to look at them, point, and tell them to go there, and that should be it. And they should just follow with that. It should be like a quick 1-2, and then you're done. That would be the smart way to do it. Especially when you have to do like multiple units of stuff. Like if you can't like shift select like 5 or 6 of them at a time. Dude, there's like no thought put into that whatsoever. And we just spent the last fucking 2.5 hours talking about designing game systems and combat mechanics so that it works.
Them with a disgusting pile of indecipherable icons. You can group up to 3 units together, but it's also laughably bad. Hitting the left bumper creates the group with one nearby ungrouped ally. Which one? Fuck if I know. It always seems to pick whichever unit is closest, except when it doesn't, and now you've got your tank grouped with a regular soldier. You can ungroup them, but it's just even more tedious than I'm willing to explain, and that should say something because I'll explain fucking anything. And there's no way to issue orders to multiple groups or all units at once. So be prepared to do the same orders over and over again, dragging that cursor back and forth across your screen, whip selecting around till you find that one unit that you haven't issued an order to. You just don't have the ability to control your troops.
This game looks so fucking boring just from watching it.
Troops in a meaningfully tactical fashion. Instead, your strategy just becomes amassing a massive army, spamming the left bumper and whip select to create as many groups as you can, and then moving them all together at once, one group at a time. Which I know is really common for RTS games, but the End War team also figured that out. Usually you don't have your whole army just going in to do things. You gotta like play around the objectives, and your positioning really matters. The whole UI in Stormrise is also an absolute joke. For some stupid fucking unknown reason, your own units don't have health bars. You can clearly see the enemy's HP, but not your own. You'll only know that your units are dying if you see the troops falling over. The Stormrise team couldn't even give the player a reliable map either. The minimap shows no relevant information about where your units are or where the enemy units are located or the status of objectives.
Why is it a 3D map when you have to worry about verticality? This is the most useless minimap I've ever seen in a fucking video game. This whole game reminds me of the early tech demos like Gears 1. I mean, in a way that it's like kind of just generic sci-fi, maybe. Yeah, not really though. I'm trying to think of like the really early like 2005 E3 showcases and stuff like that. I think Gears is a lot darker. This is giving me more like Crackdown for some reason. It's just like generic 2006 Lost Planet 2 video game.
Objectives. And it only gets worse when you hit the button to open the tactical overview map. This thing is a flaming hot pile of pure.
Whoa. God, it looks like a cutscene from the Animus. That is the most useless map I've ever seen.
Fucking garbage. What the fuck am I looking at? How the fuck is this supposed to help me better understand the battlefield? You can't even move the cursor around on this map to tell your units where to go. Instead, the cursor just kind of snaps back to the center after you move it slightly, kind of like it's tied to the unit via a rubber band. Again, let's look over at End War. See the minimap here? It's all laid out with all of the relevant objectives on the map, each with their own call sign to make them distinguishable from one another. You can clearly and very quickly see the unit numbers and grasp who is who and what is happening. End War's overview map, known as the SITREP, requires the use of a special unit on the battlefield. The
early 2000s maps? No, because like we could see like him comparing it to End of War. Just because it's the early 2000s doesn't mean it has to be a shitty map. That's just bad design. That's like somebody going like, yeah, we're going to make this look sci-fi. We're going to make it look high-tech. It's going to look cool. It's going to look like a hologram. It's going to look like an Iron Man. And then it's just a piece of shit because there was no like practicality accounted for in the design.
Command vehicle, which means it's not always available to the player. And I know that's going to rub some people the wrong way, but it's a trade-off of more firepower versus strategic information and execution. And I like when games give you the ability to make a meaningful decision, especially in a game where information is so valuable, kind of like a strategy game. And at least End War lets you control your units from the SITREP, unless you're playing on PC because they somehow managed to fuck that up. In Stormrise, when you do finally get a feel for what you want to do on the battlefield, you'll issue your orders only for your units to go off in some random direction to reach their goal. Often the levels have these paths that only smaller units can fit through or jump over, meaning you can pretty much guarantee your army will split off from each other and half your force will run one direction while the other half runs right into danger. They also tried to have an emphasis on adding verticality to the levels, so you'll find your units can climb and jump on rooftops, shipping crates, or even go underground through collapsed car parks and climb up and down stairs. And once again, this all sounds great in theory, But you'll soon realize that the verticality is one of the most frustrating aspects of the entire game. Just look at this clip. My camera can't properly show me what my units are doing. I have no way of...
So much information on the screen. This is like when you're playing Marvel Rivals, and you got like a Luna ult, Cloak and Dagger ult, Rocket ult, fucking... There's so much shit happening all at once, and it just doesn't make any fucking sense if you're not like autistically tuned in to what exactly you're looking at. And by God, this doesn't make any fucking... I don't even understand how like the minimap. It's 3D. It's at an angle. It doesn't seem to have any indication if enemies or units on the map are above or below. So it's kind of useless there. It's useless vertically, as far as I could tell. All the extra dots, movements, maybe. Enemies, I think. I can't even tell who's an ally and who's an enemy from this still. Like, I feel like it should be more
telling which unit I'm about to
defined.
whip select to, and I have no way of telling the unit that I'm currently on to go up or down the stairs to go to the next objective. And to make matters worse, there are 4 or 5 floors with objectives on each floor.
Oh.
Each objective has its own marker to indicate it, but I could just not keep track of which objective marker was on which.
This feels like it was designed by 2 different teams. Like there was one team in charge of maps and one team in charge of units and gameplay feel. And it's like there was one team that was in charge of units, and they're like, yeah, our units are going to be, you can move them around, you can move them from different points, they can climb, they can do all this other cool stuff. And they tell that to whoever's in charge of maps, and the guys on maps are like, oh, they can climb? Cool, we'll make some vertical maps. Without like any indicative of like how, what the fuck? Without any indication of how the control of the actual units is going to be affected by the layout and the architecture of the map itself. Watch Kitchen Nightmares. This is what it feels like. Somebody made a menu that was such a mess. Yeah, it feels like whoever was in charge of a lot of like the UI and like the interfacing with the game was like, here's how this mechanic works. How can I make this as confusing as possible? It's kind of just what it does kind of just feel like that.
Floor, especially not with the camera whipping all around. So eventually I discovered that I accidentally sent my commander group down to a lower level than my other troops, and my commander died, meaning I failed the mission. And this is how I discovered Stormrise's terribly antiquated checkpoint system. There are no auto checkpoints throughout the level. Instead, you have to pause and click save to create your own checkpoint. If you forget to manually save your checkpoint and you fail an objective or your commander dies, you'll have to restart the entire mission over again. You'll be constantly saving in the later levels after maybe about 2 or 3 minutes, or after you complete objective, because God forbid you have to play any more of this game.
I mean, that's how I play Fallout 4. I have that shit. That game is such a piece of shit that every time I like use like a workbench and I like customize my gun, I quit. Like I leave the workbench and I immediately quick save. Because you don't know when that game is going to crash, and you'll spend 15 minutes customizing all your guns and making sure they're all fit and proper, and then you leave, and then it just breaks.
When I discovered this awful checkpoint system, I turned the game off for the night, and it took me a few more nights before I could bring myself to keep playing it, and I only came back to Stormrise because of you guys, my subscribers and viewers that enjoy learning about terrible games that you probably skipped. Speaking of, if you're enjoying this video, help me out by clicking the like button below and subscribing for more videos. If you've got a game that you want to see me cover, let me know in the comments
I'm already
below.
Subscribed, but I'm going to
And I haven't even gotten into the line of sight and attack
chat
order
as well.
issues. Anytime you press the A button, you're issuing a move order for your units. Even if you have an enemy icon highlighted, the A button is still a move order. In every other RTS, you'd expect this to be an attack order. Maybe the unit has...
Was it a buffet? Was it what kind of restaurant was it? A 16-page menu. I thought like the 4 or 5 pages you get at Chili's was overkill. 16 fucking pages? Are you kidding me? What? Like what are you serving that you need 16 pages? Is it like a is it like a different item on each page, like burger, fries, salad, and it's just one page. Why do you need 16 pages of fucking menu, dude? That is crazy.
To move forward into range to attack, and they'll stay at the edge of their range. But Stormrise just says, fuck your common sense. Instead, your units are just going to run straight up to the enemy in order to shoot at them. Be careful ordering your sniper unit to do anything. They might just run
My restaurant's unique because we have a textbook for a menu.
straight up into the enemy unit's grill and get wiped out. Instead, you're expected to just position your units, and the units will do the shooting automatically at enemies in range. This is especially fucking annoying with the flying units. Naturally, flying units give you the best line of sight for commanding your units, but in Stormrise, they fly way higher than they should, making it really difficult to know where to tell them to move to or what their attack range is. If you accidentally click on an enemy unit's icon, they'll just fly right above the enemy, and they might not even be able to shoot straight down at them. So you have to figure out where to position them, and since you have to click on the ground to tell them to move, you'll kind of just be guessing where they need to be. That is, if they can even shoot at the enemies in range. The Hunter gunships are the absolute fucking worst unit in this entire game. They'll just sit there and twitch about rather than shooting at the enemy because their pathfinding is so bugged. Which brings us to the technical state of Stormrise. It's a bugged the fuck out mess. As I already mentioned, pathfinding is a joke. Units will often take paths that you don't expect, and they'll get stuck on each other and be unable to move. Units will get shot by enemies off screen and will die without any warning or visible shooting happening on the screen. Enemy units can just bug out and will stand there while your army guns them down in cold blood. And even the sound isn't free from bugs. In cutscenes, characters will often talk over each other, or they'll skip parts of their lines.
That I must face my greatest failing. That every moment of my life was lived in vain.
Maybe this will be a better future.
That perhaps will never exist.
Like, I can understand that happening if it's a game where you can, like, skip the dialogue, where you're, like, skipping through dialogue so fast that it starts overlapping because of the way it, like, processes. Or a game that's, like, really old, like Oblivion, where you have, like, the actors reading from their script or whatever while they're recording their lines. That is insane, bro. I feel like ordering dialogue is probably one of the easier things, like, to get technically right when you're developing a game. Would it not? Like, because it's just, after A is done, start B. When B is done, start C. When C is done, start, and just go down the line for all the lines you have. How do you have one trigger while the other one's still going? How did you set that up in a way that it is even possible to do that? That feels crazy to me.
Always be an emptiness in me.
And many of the cutscenes play out in-engine, but the action doesn't pause during the cutscene. During these unskippable cutscenes, you'll just be losing units in the background since you're unable to control them. Two characters will just be having a serious and very significant dialogue exchange, but the entire time you'll just be assaulted by the announcer shouting, "Unit lost."
Yeah.
Shields have been upgraded. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost.
May you find what you seek.
Unit lost.
And you.
That's great. I love that.
Unit lost.
And you've
It's like
seen
it's
the
rubbing it
graphics.
in.
They are pretty bland. There's very little personality to the troops you'll be commanding. And that's not to say the artwork and the design isn't great.
Dude, they look like Tau knockoffs, and the Tau is already a knockoff of Gundams. Like, how do you make like a faction or character design so generic that they look like the knockoff of another knockoff? Like, it is just like a generic sci-fi mech would probably look more unique than whatever is happening here. I don't fuck with the design at all.
In fact, the mutated Psi units are pretty cool, honestly. The massive spider-like matriarchs that serve as walking artilleries and the imposing rift worms that are flying above the battlefield, they stand out as well-designed and interesting units, but they're just not used in the story in a way that's anywhere meaningful. Overall, the variety of the units is actually pretty good.
It seems like a knockoff of StarCraft, isn't it? Isn't StarCraft RTS? Which is itself a knockoff of Warhammer, which is itself a knockoff of what's the other one called? I guess Warhammer Fantasy. It's like layers and layers and layers of knockoffs, and then we get, Sharknado.
Good. It's one of the few things the game has going for it. But like I said, unfortunately, you just don't really need to use any of them during the campaign. Instead, you just need to spawn as many of the basic troops as you can in order to overwhelm the enemy, and you'll win every single time. Speaking of spawning in more units, it does the normal real-time tactics thing of having objectives on the map that you capture that gives you more points that lets you spawn in more units. Once you capture one, it harvests energy as a resource for deploying units, and these can be upgraded to include a turret, a shield, or a refinery to boost their per second energy gain. All three of these upgrades can be placed on a control point, and all three can be upgraded up to 3 times.
The best.
Some of the capture points on the maps will also let you build a warp gate, which allows you to portal in units. So it's pretty much like every other real-time tactics game with the resource management and the point capture mechanics. But one thing that's really poorly implemented.
This game doesn't seem like it's offering anything new outside of being really, really bad to control.
Is that when you click to queue up the unit to warp in, where your cursor is pointing is where the unit is going to run to once it warps in. Usually you'd expect them to just drop right on the gate or let you set a forward rally point for that deployment point, but no, fuck that. Instead, you'll accidentally send units across the map because your cursor is constantly moving all over the place as you frantically flick your way around the battlefield. So to interact with these capture points and warp gates, of course you have to whip select to them, meaning that they have their own icons.
Oh, awesome.
It's just more fucking clutter on the screen to make the whip select system even worse. They did make it so that you can click the right stick to quickly snap to a warp gate, but if you want to get to a specific warp gate, you'll need to flick your right stick perfectly to whip the camera to it. Again, just look at this footage and decide for yourself if this looks like a fun experience.
It looks like hell.
Rangers!
Unit lost.
Retracting crossfire!
Turrets have been
You have to pick out from the random icons that you can't see through the floor. What the fuck? Who designed this? Did they not play test it? Did they not go, oh yeah, that fucking sucks? Or were they like, we gotta wrap this up, guys. We cannot, this is already a shit show. We've already put money into it. Just get it the fuck out. And we'll worry, we just won't care about it.
They're calling out crossfire!
What the fuck is happening?
So now that I've ranted at length about the fucking terrible gameplay, is it at least in service of a good story? No? Earlier I talked about the emotional story setup and the introduction cutscene and how it all sounds really promising, but I think it's time we just cover all the story beats, and yeah, I'm just gonna go into every single detail because no one else has, and this is gonna be a long rant. So the story is mostly told through in-engine cutscenes or in dialogue over the comms during the action, which is pretty common for an RTS game. But despite the kind of heavy intro cutscene, Stormrise actually plays more like a comedy. The characters are just constantly making quips and joking with each other, even across enemy lines.
You know Iona? Yeah, I embarrassed myself years ago at a Federation of Peace conference. Came across as a real party girl, but she's a total prude.
Hey! Can someone get me out of this piece of shit? Can someone else get me out of this piece of shit?
The game is split into 3 acts with pre-rendered cutscenes separating the acts, and I have to give some credit to whoever directed these cutscenes. There's actually some good blocking going on and some good camera work, and with only a few exceptions, the cast delivers some excellent voiceover performance, except for the main character. So after Geary got rescued from his stasis pod by Vantage and Huntsman, he's put into one of those mechs that we saw and we're shuffled through the tutorial. On only the second mission, a Psi commander named Iona communicates telepathically with Geary and asks if Geary can feel the changes happening. But she's cut off by Geist, the other Psi that we saw in the opening cutscene. At the end of the mission, we climb up to the rooftop and we go to capture another Psi commander named Sable. But she springs a trap and she captures Geary.
Quick, get her, Geary, before she blinks away.
I won't resist. Sorry. This is the only way.
Hit him with force lightning.
Then after a loading screen, we're woken up by Ava in the middle of a collapsed city alongside other Echelon troops, which begs the question, wasn't Geary just captured? And I actually got so confused by the order of events that I closed out to the main menu to read the mission descriptions and to see if I missed something. Then I went and I watched the recording footage and other people's footage online because I thought, surely I must have accidentally hit a button and skipped a major cutscene, but nope. There's nothing to bridge the gap between Sable capturing Geary and him waking up in the city. Makes no sense. So as the next mission ends, it turns out that Vantage was actually working with Iona and the Psi the whole time. Huntsman figures this out, so he abandons Vantage and Geary during an evacuation from an impending firestorm. So then the next mission just starts with you taking control of the Psi and fighting through some caves to get through monsters and through the Echelon. Then Sable and Geist show up and take Geary to their leader, but Huntsman crashes the party and Vantage allows herself to be captured. Or at least that's what they said in the following mission. Just watch this cutscene from the end of the mission and you tell me if you understood what happened. Oh, and there's a bug in the cutscene where the model for Vantage's mech appears as 4 separate mechs.
I'll hold them off. Don't stop, I've got you covered.
I got you now, freaks.
Sable, get him out of here.
I got you. Say goodbye.
There's so much shit happening.
So after that mess, Geary wakes up in front of the Psi leaders and we discover that Geary is infected and he's undergoing some sort of change. He meets the main leader for the Psi, Meridian, and it turns out that she's the woman Geary saw from the opening cutscene. It also turns out that the Echelon have been building a new hibernation chamber in secret because they still can't control the firestorms, and the Psi are pretty pissed off about this and they're ready to take the fight to the Echelon. So the Psi team goes to save Vantage and they discover that the Echelon plan to use a biological weapon from an airship that's called the Eclipse that will make the world inhabitable again. But it will mean that the Psi will lose all of their mutant powers. So for the next mission, we destroy the Eclipse to bring an end to that plan. And then there's an assault on the Echelon base to capture the Chancellor of the Echelon and prevent the production of more Eclipse aircraft. Then Geist and Meridian double-cross everyone and set an Eclipse to overload and explode to wipe out the Echelon. In order to stop their plan, Geary has to get Ava up so that she can hack into the terminal.
What? What? Hold on. It's not making any sense.
She's never caught me sneaking out. Not once in over 2 millennia.
What are you talking?
Geary, listen. If something happens, you need to get to the source. Remember this.
Oh, okay.
Sure, the source. I got it.
Okay, don't forget. I'm off. See you upstairs.
No problem.
So after disabling the overload function on the Eclipse, the team finds out that Meridian and Geist plan to fire up one of the weather control generators. Then, like, out of fucking nowhere, Meridian just starts doing some crazy ass shit where she captures Ava and her hologram head shows up and it just starts spewing that Ava lied to everyone. Then for some fucking reason, she just starts going wild and hostile at everyone in the room. And, well, Huntsman puts it best.
You're a fool, Geary. All of you are culpable for your crimes. Even your little guardian angel. Time to say goodbye, my sweet.
Is she eating
What
it?
the fuck was all that about?
So from the Echelon base, the team moves forward by commanding an Eclipse with the plan to stop Meridian, Geist, and Sable from firing up the Radix generator. The plan is to destroy the Psi's citadel with the Eclipse's main cannon.
I can't.
And I'm just,
I'll be honest. I don't know who the fuck the the protagonist is or whatever their goals are. This whole thing doesn't make any sense. I thought it was trying to be like switching it up on you, where it's like, oh, you think the mutants are the bad guys, but they're actually, you know, the good ones. And it's like, no, they're also bad, I guess.
I'm just gonna admit right here, right now, this is where the game's tedium just really fucking dragged on me. It took me over an hour to beat just this mission alone, and I was dying over and over and over and over again, and it's just slow work moving forward to take out the anti-air turrets one after another to get the Eclipse into position. And when I finally get the Eclipse there to fire its giant Independence Day laser, this is the reward I got.
You've done it, Yuri. Coop, you're clear. Fire the Polaris Rift.
Okay, blew it
Ranger
up.
sighted.
Man, that physics is not strong.
The freak show will bring in their Rangers. Rangers!
So yeah, the game just kind of bugged out and the Eclipse didn't even fire a laser. It just smashed through the top of the tower. So the next 3 missions are just absolutely disgustingly bad. By now you already don't want to play this game, and then these next 3 missions are all going to take you an hour each to complete.
This feels like the RTS equivalent of Sonic the Hedgehog 06, where it's just so bad and so hard to control. Dude, I thought Sonic 06 was like a hard game to play when I played it in like 2008 or whatever. Like, I thought I was just really shit at video games because I played it when I was a child, and that game controls so poorly that I thought I was just really bad, and I thought it was just really hard. And then I go through and like replay Sonic 06 with like a fully formed frontal lobe, and you're like, oh no, it's not that this game is like hard to play or anything. It's just a complete piece of shit. And that's kind of what this game, like, if this is like the kind of game, if I played it in like 2010 or whatever, around the same time as Gears, I'd be like, oh man, this is really hard. I don't understand this. Why is this so, well, I need to be like way better of a gamer to understand this. But then it's like, no, it's just a piece of shit.
So about halfway through one of these missions, I just gave up. I just decided I'm not going to play this game anymore. I went on YouTube and I just found someone else's gameplay footage, and I watched and I reviewed all of it over and over again, including all of the dialogue during the cutscenes and during the gameplay, to make sure that I knew what was going on with the story. I don't feel like I missed out on anything. If you got a problem with that, let me know in the comments, or, you know, just leave it to your fucking self. And also, shout out to those brave souls that not only finished this piece of shit, but they also recorded it and put it on a free and public platform. Your contributions to documenting this poorly designed piece of shit will be forever contextualized and immortalized here in this video. And I've placed credit on...
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Like, maybe in the past, if a game was bad, I would like not continue. Like, if I played Assassin's Creed Shadows 5-6 years ago when I was in high school and stuff, I would probably play through the whole game even if I wasn't really having fun. Like, I did that with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where like I wasn't really having fun with it, but I played through the entire thing regardless. I'd probably do that with Shadows back then, but like now, I barely even have the time to play games. I'm not going to sit there for hours, for fucking 50 hours playing a game I don't want to play. It didn't catch me, and I just left it. I wasn't going to go through and fucking finish that game. It didn't leave any mark on me whatsoever.
Green, where credit is due. So after destroying the Citadel, the team jumps in order to go save Iona and take out Sable. The mission starts with a barrage of sex jokes.
I'm sure you must be weary, Geary, with flying up so high. Will you rest down on my little bed?
No thanks. I've heard all about your bed already.
I'm bored, Geary. Hurry. I need some action down here. Or I'm afraid I'm just going to have to start without you.
Oh, I'm ready for you, Sable. Let's play.
Oh, goody. You start on top.
Dealing with all of the terrible verticality of the maps to capture objectives, the team heads down to rescue Iona and eventually Ava. Ava says that Meridian plans to use the Radix generator to reset the atmosphere, and to do so, Meridian created an echo in time to bring the Radix generator forward in time to the present to make it operational again. Yeah, you heard that right. The generator is brought forward
time travel ex machina
in time through the power of magic. There's no way you survived rolling your eyes at that plot twist. After discovering this, Huntsman decides he's just gonna commit a mutiny and take control of the Chancellor's Eclipse to go and destroy the Radix generator, which, unbeknownst to him, means that he would actually create a devastating and deadly shockwave that would wipe out all life on the planet. He ends up killing the Chancellor, and then eventually we stop him, and the game goes on to the final mission at the Radix generator. And well, I'm just gonna let this cutscene play out for you and let you experience how bad it is for yourself. And I've sped it up just to save you a little bit of time.
Ava, what the hell is this place?
This crater is Ground Zero, the site of the first Radix malfunction. Such a small mistake, which sparked a terrible chain reaction. The event?
And the storm. I remember now.
It's amazing. Meridian has created a time echo, temporarily dragging the Radix generator from the past into the present.
Shit. So you can punch the code into the past.
And that's why she needed so much energy. Meridian is trying to recreate the event to neutralize the storm, but she doesn't understand what she's doing. We have to stop her.
And after a long sequence of capturing control points, to capture more control points, to capture more control points, the team takes down the power to stop the generator. Geary confronts Geist, and the audio bugs out a few times because of course it does. And eventually Geist just gives up and surrenders.
That every moment of my life was lived in vain.
Maybe this will be a better future.
That perhaps
oh, that's what that was.
There will always be an emptiness in me for the future you have won. Farewell. May you find what you seek.
And you.
He just bitched out.
Geary and Ava head up to the control terminal for Ava to save the day. As they get closer, Meridian shows up to tell Geary that he's making a mistake as Ava initiates the process.
You disappoint me, Geary. A spell has blinded you.
We'll see.
Wait!
There's no other way.
Geary, you must stop her! She bends the truth!
Enough of your bullshit! You're the one who should be stopped!
You fool!
Restoration process initiated. Awaiting identification.
Do you even know what she is doing?
Scan confirmed.
She would destroy everything just to hide her guilt.
Get out of my head!
You pathetic puppet. Look at yourself, Geary. You lack the courage to do what is right in front of you.
Awaiting voice override sequence.
Ha! You will die for nothing. You are too late.
Ava.
It begins! Paradise awaits! The time is now!
Awaiting voice override sequence.
What have I done?
Executing restoration process. Returning to previous checkpoint.
It's not possible! No!
She get put in a fucking time chamber?
Then Geary wakes up in a hospital bed. He overhears a TV broadcast with the Chancellor talking about how the newly created Radix generators will allow humanity to put a stop to the weather events, and that this is our second chance. We can see that Geary's eye is healed, which means he doesn't look like Solid Snake anymore. And the Chancellor on the TV is introducing Ava as the professor in charge of the Radix project. Ava is in the room, but she refuses to let Geary ask his questions about what just happened with Meridian and the generators, and instead she injects him with a blue serum that she says will provide protection. Then she just leaves, and a news broadcast continues to explain that 5 bodies were found buried under the snow in Antarctica, and, well, I'm just gonna let this roll.
And questions of their origin have stirred vigorous debates within academic circles. Excavation of the site will continue this week in the hope of extracting the bodies ahead of an approaching storm front. Until then, their identities will likely remain unknown.
So they sent everything back to the past to where the machine worked in the past, and they sent her to the past, but it didn't happen. So it ends with like a grandfather paradox. Okay. What? That's the end?
Yep.
No
That's
way.
it. That's the whole story. I hope you like plot twists that aren't actually plot
Time
twists
travel?
because none of them are fucking explained, because you got like 5 of them all at the end right there. But I guess I'm a masochist because not only did I watch this cutscene, I watched it like 5 times, and I watched all of the cutscenes in the game multiple times, and I even went through and made sure I listened to all of the during mission dialogue to figure out what in the fuck this was all supposed to mean. There are some random nuggets throughout that kinda allude to what's going on, like when Ava says she hasn't found me in nearly 2 millennia, but none of it's explained in that final cutscene, and there are more questions than answers. And my biggest guess is that Ava was sent back in time to when they were just first trying to control the weather, and she knew it wasn't going to work, so she gave Geary a shot of what was needed to survive the harsh weather. I guess that's what was meant when the computer said returning to previous checkpoint. As for Meridian and the 4 other side leaders, they must be thousands of years old, buried under the snow, and the firestorms released them. But
we see her in the firestorm when she transforms. So is there always 2 of them going around? It's like they want to have a story that's like a loop that like cycles around on itself. It's just not written very well.
Still doesn't mesh with the opening.
It's like they wrote like a regular story and they're like, you know what if we made it loop? It's like what's the one, was it Lost Void that had the fucking colony ship where it like just didn't make any fucking sense and it kind of came out of nowhere and you're like, what the fuck is going on? When you're like, they were writing one story and they're like, what if we just did something else?
Cutscenes showing Meridian as a young woman. So clearly, I have no fucking idea what happened or why. Like I said earlier, there aren't any websites or forum posts or videos talking about this flaming pile of shit. There's no one out here that's like sharing ideas and piecing all of it together. So we're all just kind of left in the dark. And at the end of the day, it's a shitty fucking game with shitty fucking controls and a shitty fucking plot. And I know that RTS games are all about the multiplayer and the skirmishes, but get the fuck out of here. You can't tell me that this gameplay alone is what's gonna carry someone to replay match after match. There's no way I'm gonna waste any more of my time fumbling with the controls in this flaming pile of shit. And it's not
I'd
like
rather do Civilization Revolution. Dude, if you ever do Civilization Revolution games, like retrospective for the 360, get me on that shit. I'll take any excuse I have to play that game. But yeah, this looks like a piece of shit.
Was much of a multiplayer scene anyway. Of course, releasing on the console means it's nearly impossible to find actual sales figures, but given that Sega canceled any post-release support within about a month of the release,
I wonder if he said Capcom.
It's safe to say it didn't sell well. In addition to the PS3 and Xbox 360, it was also released on PC, where SteamDB shows it once had a peak concurrent player count of only 9 players. For comparison, Empire Total War, also by Creative Assembly, was released 3 weeks before Stormrise. It had a peak concurrent player count of 28,000 players. So let's be a little generous to Stormrise. It was released in that era where physical copies for PC were also an option, and maybe Steam only accounted for 1% of the total player count across PC and consoles. After all, it was designed for consoles. Even then, that's only about 900 players. And I don't know how much more generous we could be here. Even if we multiplied that by 10, that's still only 9,000 players. That's not a lot of people. No one played this piece of shit. You probably never even heard about it until this video. The reviewer outlets couldn't muster anything higher than 2s or 3s for this atrocity, this abomination of mankind, this loathsome fucking wretch. No one that actually played Stormrise would recommend anyone else suffer through the torment and the physical toll of consuming this piece of filth. That is, unless the person they're recommending it to is some masochistic, nostalgia-drunk, self-loathing, stubbornly contrarian, middle-aged retro game reviewer that's digging through the bargain bin of history to find the games that we all skipped.
I'm waiting for Snake to pull up with like a whiskey glass. I wonder how bad it has to be for that to get there. Get into Doom. Nice. That was fun. That was... Oh, man. The fuck was that? There's probably a reason nobody's ever heard of that. I've never heard of that, right? Because it's just not worth the time or the effort to think about. I'm going to link it one more time here in chat. Now that we've watched it. Go through, give Ice a like, and subscribe to his channel. because his videos are not bad. They're more entertaining than mine are. I just lucked out with Ben 10. Thank you guys, everyone, so very much for watching. We'll be back next Saturday. More stuff going on. Join the Discord. Check out the Warhammer Guide menu video so you can see how stupid it is. Oh, wait, hold on. The 16-page menu? Where is it? Oh, it's an off-topic. Oh, it's only 43 seconds long. I'll pull it up. I don't know if I'm able to watch. That's not it. Sure, we can look at this real quick.
It gets exhausting. Explain the menu. I know. It's overwhelming.
I've created a unique menu that nobody else has.
We have 23 gourmet flavor combinations.
There's 21 gourmet flavor combinations.
There's 20 gourmet flavor combinations.
Wait. Pick a flavor combination, and then you add to beef, chicken, portobello mushroom, or steak. Shrimp. Wait, can I start over?
So the meat is in the combination.
That's not 16 pages. I mean, it's complicated. More complicated than most menus are. I was expecting to see like a textbook get flopped out. How did I get here? I'm feeling the same, bro. But yeah, I guess it is kind of wild. But yeah, that'll be it for the stream tonight. The guide will go up later as a video. Thank you everyone so much for watching. See you next Saturday with something maybe more exciting. Well, thank you. We did see it. So the next weekend, I don't know. We'll see. I might put up another poll on the Discord. But everyone, thank you very much for watching. Stay cool. Have fun. Be awesome.